Hi guys, thanks for joining me on this special episode. Today is the Thanksgiving episode, which we actually hadn't planned, but my editor kind of insisted on doing one, so I decided to have a special guest come over, which, as you can see from episode 4, is Matt Gegare once again. Now,
what up?
Today we're going to be talking about our favorite video games. We're going to take some of the past consoles and just talk about them and talk about some of our favorite games from that era. So, Matt, first off, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing just peachy.
Yeah? That's good. I'm glad.
Thanks.
Anything you want to say before we get into this?
Well, I'd just like to say I'm really excited to talk about these games. So with the games, it's a good time. I always enjoy talking about them. Spur of the moment, so it's cool. Right before chicken wings!
Matt is hungry for chicken wings.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Monday, about 3-4 days before Thanksgiving, and as you can see, we got a lovely pie right here, and this is a real pie. I plan on eating this thing at some point. Yeah, I am. So, let's go ahead and start talking about it. And speaking of Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for a lot of things. Video games is one of them. Obviously, I wouldn't be where I am without them. So, since we're being thankful for video games, let's go back. Let's reminisce. Let's take a walk down memory lane.
The yellow brick road, sort to say.
Well, the yellow brick road leads you to Oz. That's not taking you back in time.
That's...
Let's. How about this? Let's use this analogy. Let's hop in our DeLorean.
As long as we can get... Is it 88 miles an hour? Is that how fast you gotta go?
Yes.
I almost said 86. I almost
88.
screwed that up so bad.
So, regular Nintendo. Let's just write the system that I know a lot of us grew up on. I mean, I had an Atari beforehand, but we'll go ahead. A lot of us grew up on the 8-bit Nintendo.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh man, favorite game. I remember playing like Battletoads. You ever played Bucky O'Hare? Like all those weird games, dude. Mario 2, which when I got older I found it wasn't the real Mario 2 and 3. Playing Duck Hunt as a little kid and cheating, putting your gun right up against the TV. I'm gonna kill everything. Pump, 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 pump. Friends be like, you're cheating. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to win.
I don't care. I don't even care. That essentially, yeah. When you're a kid growing up, that is your first cheat. I want to say is like, hey, this gun works better if I'm like right here. So, yeah, growing up, I remember Duck Hunt, the Duck Hunt Mario combo pack that you got,
sure.
And you got the light gun right away, and DuckTales. That's probably got to be one of the ones that a lot of people mention. It was a good platformer. Probably one of my favorite games. Not the favorite game. No, it was a good game. Actually, in the sea of crap that ended up being Nintendo games, because I'm sure you remember playing a lot of them that were horrible.
Oh yeah.
In the sea of crap that was Nintendo games that were based off of TV shows and movies and all this other stuff that they were just trying to push out, DuckTales was actually a good game. It was a good platformer, I feel, in my eyes. I remember Battletoads was one of them. Definitely Zelda.
Gold Edition.
Yeah, I don't have it, but I have a friend that does. I see that you did too. And I remember playing it.
To me. I had a babysitter, and he's like, "Hey, you want this game?" And I'm like, "Okay."
Really?
He just gave it to me, and I was like, oh, "Whatever."
That's crazy.
And then I get older, and I'm like, "What an idiot!"
What an idiot!
Score.
So yeah, those were a lot of the big ones that I had, but I'd have to say my most favorite for the Nintendo was probably Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah, it was badass.
Hands down. Like, I'd played 1, and then I'd played 2, and like you said, eventually came to find out that wasn't even 2. But 3 had to be, like, it was awesome, because you had this world that you could, see the levels, and you had, like, the frog suit, you had the Tanuki suit, and you could touch the leaf and have the raccoon tail with the ears and
tripping balls.
And then you had you could steal that shoe from Goombas, so you could use the shoe. Man, it was amazing. It was, at the time, it blew my mind. Had to be my favorite Nintendo game.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm just trying to think. I just remember playing Battletoads a lot as a kid and like dying in the second level a lot. Or was it the third level when you're on those?
Speeder bikes?
Yeah.
I think that was the third level.
I hated that level so much.
But you know that
Oh my
actually
God.
that part of the game being so hard was actually canonical because the story was that the nerds made the game to be hard because they were the Battletoads.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was the whole reason why that game was so difficult. Was like, oh, we're gonna make it difficult because it's really us. But speaking of Battletoads, kind of diverting off, my favorite Battletoads had to be the arcade game because that one was the bloody one. It was gory. That's where you had like all of them having different things that they could transform into. Like they'd have a football helmet if you did the running head,
yeah.
and then like you could get the saw that came out of your knee, and then the drill that drilled into their face. That one I love because that was the really violent one.
Man, go back to arcade games, X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men, Simpsons,
God.
those were always my
Turtles.
favorite. Yeah, Turtles.
Those were my favorite games as a kid. Totally just forgot about those. I was the biggest Teenage Mutant the turtle thing with the half shell that I
And
couldn't
they're
just
ninjas.
say.
Um,
And they're green.
you're probably talking about 2 and 3, right? Because
No.
1 was that one where you could only pick one certain turtle.
I played that one at remember playing that at my cousin's house. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. And then I'd be on top and I get run over and I'd be like, this is dumb.
See, my thing was like I played the arcade game first, and then I played that one, and I had the mentality of like, oh, it's gonna be the same, and then it never was.
Yeah, that's what.
And then they had 2 come out, which was pretty much an arcade port.
2 is sweet. I like 2.
Yeah.
My nose is really itchy tonight.
Then, being that age, I remember the Super Nintendo. I remember getting my Super Nintendo on my birthday. I unwrapped this box, and inside it, I open it up, and here's this game device, and there's a picture of Mario, because it was the one that came with Super Mario World.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here looking at it, and I went crazy, because obviously, you know, you're used to the 8-bit, and all of a sudden you have this new system. Ridiculous. So, of course, I opened it up, set it all up, and out of all the games that were on it, you know, Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, great game. Captain America, definitely a good game. Of course, all the standards that eventually, you know, Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Arcade, all those. Mortal Kombat, you know, was a standard on there. You know, all the different games that came out on it, and then, you know, eventually Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong Country, just all these great games that came out on it. It seemed like at that point Nintendo was finally like, okay, we'll start making more quality games instead of just pushing out shit.
Yep.
But Super Mario World, to this day, I still have to say is my favorite game for that console.
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past, Zelda. Yeah.
Or Tecmo Bowl. It's always me. There's always my action game and my football game.
Yeah, Super Tecmo Bowl was good. Definitely good. Yeah, Link to the Past. Super Metroid was another one that
Never played it.
you know, you went from Metroid, which was a great game, and then all of a sudden you have Super Metroid, and it's like, this thing is beautiful. This is amazing compared to the first one, and it was a great game. Super Punch Out. I remember going from Punch Out to Super Punch Out. Great game. Again, and it was just the Super Nintendo. I had a Genesis. You know, people were like, there were some people that were either or. Some people had both. I was one that had both, and a lot of times I went back to my Super Nintendo more than I did my Sega Genesis. I think my Sega I only ever used for Streets of Rage. Otherwise, it was always Super Nintendo.
Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Yeah.
That's my weird game that I liked. What other ones were there? Secret of Mana.
Yep.
That was a big one. What's that other one? It was this is gonna kill me now. I cannot remember.
ActRaiser.
No.
Because that was a good game. I loved ActRaiser 1 and 2.
Oh, there's that other game that's so hard to find now. Oh, what is it called? It's expensive too. I can't remember.
There's a lot of them that are
I
like
know.
that. Some of the Final Fantasy games are like that.
It's an RPG though. It was
Chrono Trigger?
yes, that's the one.
That was a good game.
Yeah. Oh my god, my brain's like, I don't know what the name of this is. It's crazy. Yeah, that just happened.
So being in the Super Nintendo era, Being in the Super Nintendo era, and you mentioning Chrono Trigger, great game. I love that game, and it was unfortunate they didn't really advance it. One of the reasons I liked it, at the time I didn't know, because it was still at that point where America hadn't had it yet, but, or if it did, it was on some really obscure channels, but it was made by the same guy that made Dragon Ball, and now that I know that, I thoroughly enjoyed the game more. I mean, eventually they went on and did, like, Dragon Quest, which was the same guy, but, yeah, I wish they would have continued it, because I feel that Akira Toriyama's style, obviously since I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball and all that stuff, I really wish they would have continued on with it, and it was such a great story. But yeah, that, like I said, Super Mario World definitely has to be, and Link to the Past with you, which was an amazing game too. When you went from the first Zelda to Link to the Past, it was mind-blowing. So then, of course, the way I heard about the N64 was I was in an arcade, actually, where I grew up. It was Skip's Bowling Alley in Stevens Point, and they had Cruisin' USA. And whenever it was in demo mode, it would, go through it, and then it would eventually be like, Cruisin' USA will be released on a Nintendo 64. Which, of course, at the time, I had no idea what it was, because we had the Super Nintendo, and the only way you would know at that point, I think, was Nintendo Power, if you had it, and I didn't have it. And, that was still at the age when the internet was still kind of, in its baby form, where people couldn't be like, oh, well, what is it? I'll just go Google it. That wasn't a term then. So, I'd be like, oh, what the heck is this Nintendo 64? What is this? What's going on? And I can still to this day remember the logo of them saying Nintendo 64, and it had a spinning Game Boy cartridge, actually. It was just enlarged. And then it finally came out. Ridiculous. It came out, and the first game I had for it was Star Fox 64, which was an amazing game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
It was a great game. And then eventually, at the time I was also into Pokemon, so I had Pokemon Stadium. Eventually got Pokemon Stadium 2. I had Pokemon Snap. Had all kinds of games. I had GoldenEye, which everybody loves.
Everybody play GoldenEye.
Yeah.
So many sleepovers playing GoldenEye.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that had an N64 that didn't have GoldenEye.
Terrible at that game.
Or at least played it.
I used the club. The worst gun ever. Die!
I always use that, oh my god, I can't remember his name, but he was an Asian dude, but he was always shorter.
Karate chop guy?
Yeah, because he was always shorter. Because nobody could hit him, because everybody else was
you can't aim. You like aim and you
exactly.
Can't hit him.
Everybody was the same height except for him, so it's like, I got disadvantage because nobody can shoot me. But other games like Road Rash 64. Road Rash was a huge thing on Sega.
Ocarina.
And then Ocarina of Time. I knew you were going to say that. You would choose Zelda again. Road Rash 64, Road Rash, like I said, was a Sega thing, and then finally Nintendo got it for the 64, and good times. Those were another thing where late nights, I'd get 3 buddies together, we'd all play 4-player split screen, and we'd just sit there and beat the piss out of each other with weapons and our bikes and everything. It was so hilarious.
Mario Kart 64, I didn't like it as much as I did regular Mario Kart, but I still liked it. That's the first game I got. That, and then Madden 64. It was terrible, but I played the crap out of that game too.
Matt, how about Quarterback Club?
I never got into those.
That one actually had Brett Favre on it.
Do you have a cell phone with him too?
I remember growing up because I was, you see the Madden covers and it never had Brett Favre, and at the time being Packer fans growing up, we never saw Brett Favre on the cover, and that actually had him on it. It had him on the cartridge too, and so that was one thing I was like, yeah.
I did play that game. It was terrible.
Yeah, that was the one thing about it.
That's why I don't remember it.
But I do remember being like a Packer fan, like, yeah, my quarterback is on there, and then eventually he was on Madden, but then they had the Packer cover, but then you could
the Jet one.
Yeah, I remember because I was working at a Walmart where I actually handed out the Jet one, and you wouldn't believe how many people actually just ripped it up and gave it back to me. But
I believe it.
Yeah, and then
Dick Favre.
Yeah, of course, after he was on a Madden there, he took a picture of himself and exposed it to somebody. But
she was pretty hot, so I mean, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, but his wife was good looking. Why would you do that?
They're both hot. I don't know.
Anyway, back to the subject at hand.
Brett Favre.
And of course at that time they had the PlayStation was on the other side competing with it. There wasn't really much, I think. I played Twisted Metal 1, 2, and 3, which were decent games. It's kind of like a Mario Kart, but more mature. Sweet Tooth. Yeah! Love that clown. Not like that. It's weird. And then, of course, everybody's always going to say Final Fantasy VII. It has to be the best.
Never played it.
No.
I was never a PlayStation guy. It was Nintendo all the way to Xbox. And then I switched to Xbox. I played Mystic Quest like back in the day, but I never played 7. I play a lot of Madden and Zelda.
I am speechless. You never played 7?
I think he just shit himself.
My brain is hurting. I don't think I've ever not met anybody who's played Final Fantasy, because you did.
I just missed a quest.
Yeah, but
it's not even Final Fantasy in my opinion. It's just a spin-off game.
Anyway, before I have aneurysm.
He's having a nerdgasm right now.
No, I was having an aneurysm. All right, so then from there we went to the next gen. We had the Nintendo GameCube and we had the PlayStation 2, and eventually along came the Xbox. But let's start with the GameCube. I owned one. I'm sure you did, being a Nintendo person.
Favorite game on GameCube? Oh man. Zelda games always pop in my head first. Wind Waker was alright. It was hated. It was long. It took a long time to beat. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It was just I like Twilight Princess on it. I thought that was cool.
See, my problem with Wind Waker was they showed, and this is when I had Nintendo Power. They showed pictures, and then even on the internet, they showed pictures of this beautiful, amazing game that was so detailed, and the graphics were so beautiful. And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna change it to cartoony." And really, I'm like, why would you do that? Which I'm going to say Borderlands eventually did too. They were like, oh, we're going to have this beautiful desert and all this. And then I'm like, yeah, but Fallout just did that. You guys look exactly like Fallout. And then they made it cartoony and it worked. Because they were going off of another, like I said, it made me think of Fallout. And then they switched it and I'm like, okay, this game looks good. But with Wind Waker, it
It's one of those games that grew on me. At first I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Then it grew on me.
I couldn't get into it.
And I nerdgasm every time I play Zelda games. It's just, it happens. It doesn't matter how terrible it is. I'm just like, yep, it's good stuff.
I'd have to say the games I probably played the most on my GameCube was Simpsons Road Rage, which was a spinoff of Crazy Taxi, but and I think it was all on all consoles. I remember it being on the Xbox and the GameCube. I think it was on PlayStation 2. But I used to play the crap out of that game. I'd have to say, as much hate as that game got, Luigi's Mansion, I played a lot of just because it was the first game where it really, there was Mario's missing, but that game I didn't count. It was the first game that actually really starred Luigi, and you went around and you were pretty much a Ghostbuster, and I thought it was cool. I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
What system was the Mario RPG on?
The 7 Stars?
Yeah.
That was on Super Nintendo, but then they did Paper Mario on N64.
Okay.
Which, forgot to mention, loved both of those games. I loved 7 Stars, and I loved Paper Mario.
I never played Paper Mario, but I played the RPG. I thought
yeah, well, Paper Mario is an RPG, and it plays. It actually has a lot of connection with the 7 Stars because you go around and you actually collect 7 stars in Paper Mario. You end up obviously getting helpers, like you did in the RPG. So there's a lot of connection between it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
7 Year Door came out on GameCube, which it was a pretty good. It was a continuation off of the first Paper Mario. It was all right. I didn't like it as much, but I thought it was pretty cool because you got to play as Bowser in it. And there's some cool stuff. Then Super Smash Brothers Melee.
Just about to say that. Yeah.
That probably was my favorite game on there.
Played, yeah.
Out of everything. And there's
next to Zelda, next to Ocarina.
Numerous reasons. Like I said, I played those other games, but I had Madden 2002 on there also. That was
I played every Madden. You know me, I'd always been big Madden.
02 was my favorite year. I don't know why. To this day, I still look at Madden. I'm like, okay, I kind of have this itch, but 02 for some reason is still my favorite year, and I played the crap out of it. But Super Smash Brothers Melee has to be, the fact that Super Smash Brothers was good, but then they added all those new characters and all this stuff, and it actually, believe it or not, started a friendship for me because my buddy Seth, who was here for the 3rd episode, me and him, he invited me over to his house. I brought my GameCube, and yeah, like we played Madden and stuff. But I popped in Melee, and he was doing something. He wasn't playing, but I had Mewtwo, and Mewtwo would do this move where he'd put his hands back like this and start building an energy ball, and then he threw it. So I was sitting there with Mewtwo one day, not thinking that, not paying attention that he was there, and I'm Kamehameha. And as soon as I did that, he turns around and he's like, "Did you just say Kamehameha?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Only Goku can do that." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I paused my game, set down my controller, and I'm like, "Wait, you know Goku?" He's like, "Yeah, I know Goku." And this is at the time before the show was real popular, before it was on really any network. It was real obscure still. I think it was on Warner Brothers at that time, before Cartoon Network took it. And of course, nobody knew anything about it then, so of course me and him only assumed that only Goku could do the Kamehameha. We didn't really know that Master Roshi was the one that gave it to him, but...
Going up mountains,
Yeah, exactly. So, at the time, that helped build a friendship off of that game, but that game itself was just this amazing fighter of Nintendo characters that you normally wouldn't see together in a game.
Ghost Nappa.
So yeah, definitely my favorite for GameCube would have to be Super Smash Bros. Melee. You're saying Wind Waker or Twilight Princess?
I'd probably go Twilight or Madden.
Okay. Madden. So then,
I love Madden.
Growing up,
there's another game too. I just can't remember it.
It's that was when the console wars to me really began, because you had Nintendo and Genesis, and then Super Nintendo and
Xbox.
And Super Nintendo and the Genesis, and Nintendo and Master System, and then you had the N64 and you had a PlayStation, and those two were fighting, and then all of a sudden GameCube, PlayStation 2, and then all of a sudden out of this nobody really knew was coming, the Xbox.
What the hell is that?
Right? You have two Japanese companies that are fighting, and all of a sudden this American product called the Xbox is coming from over here. Bill Gates made a system? What? Wait, back it up here. So I remember being this huge...
Paper. Money.
Yeah, I remember being this huge Nintendo fan, and then all of a sudden this thing called the Xbox comes out. And I had a PlayStation 2, but I think the only games I had for it were like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which a friend of mine got me into. Loved that game. Me and him would sit there for hours, pass the controller back and forth. And we wouldn't even play the story. It's like, just play till you die. And we just back and forth. So I eventually got one for that, for Vice City, and then the Dragon Ball Z games. Because at first, they didn't come out on any other console. They just came out on a PlayStation. So I had it there. Eventually, they came out for GameCube.
Budokai.
Yeah. But then the Xbox came out, and I was introduced to a little game called Halo.
That guy.
That guy right there. And at first, like anything, like I really wasn't into shooters. I like describing the games that we just did. They weren't really shooters.
Yeah,
I mean, the biggest one shooters. I think that I came close was Star Fox.
Oh, Star Fox. Okay.
I'd played Doom on like Super Nintendo, but nothing really even close to a shooter.
GoldenEye?
Well, GoldenEye, I suppose, was, but that I didn't really, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose GoldenEye. Yeah, but I really didn't play GoldenEye for the story. Like, I did do story missions, but it was mainly for the multiplayer.
Well, I mean, that's what I was talking about. I was just talking about shooters.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But then, Halo comes along, and my buddy was like, hey, try this game out. So we start playing through the story, and I remember playing against his older brother, and his older brother would whoop up on us, and all this stuff. And, that was within probably the first month or so that it was out, and we're playing, and I noticed I'm starting to get better, and he's starting to get better, and then my friend Seth is getting better, and all of a sudden I realized, we're good at this game. We actually had tournaments set up locally around town and all this other stuff, and it's like the three of us are actually really good at this. And, so then, that was my favorite game. I mean, yeah, there's other games on Xbox. Like, eventually I got Simpsons Hit and Run for it. I think I played The Punisher on it. Trying to think. Oh, Fable, I played. But I always kept coming back to Halo. Getting all of your buddies together and getting a LAN party, getting 4 TVs together, 4 Xboxes, and just having a LAN party.
Yeah, I remember going to like my buddy's house. He lived down the road and up a hill or whatever.
So yeah, I always kept coming back to Halo. Anyway, you were talking about your buddy that lived up a hill, down a hill, wherever.
Way over the hell somewhere, we would go to my buddy's house and we'd have a TV set up in the living room, and we'd have a TV in the basement, and they'd have, or maybe there was a TV upstairs. I don't know. There's just 2 TVs in different parts of the house, and we'd have our 4-person team, and they'd have their 4-person team. And you play and you'd be like, yeah, gotcha, and you just yell and shit at each other back and forth, and it's a good time.
Yeah, I remember our classic. We would have 8-on-8, and usually if we would do either Slayer or Capture the Flag. There was 2 very fond memories I had where we had an 8-on-8 Capture the Flag, and we had it. My buddy Seth. It was two flags apiece. We each had 2 flags apiece. My buddy Seth had a rocket launcher, and the opposite team had the flag, and they were across. We were playing on Blood Gulch. You remember the very first Blood Gulch, and
throw a grenade all the way across the map.
So Seth is like, they've got it, they're taking it up, and he jumps from our base and fires a rocket across the map, goes to their base, and he hits him dead on, hits him. The flag goes flying. His partner grabs the flag in midair and drops down and captures it. That was the only time that I can recall us being like, yeah! Oh! It sucked so bad. Then the other time had to be, we're at our buddy Joe's house. This is actually time, like before we had this building that we were actually using for tournaments, but this one we had at our buddy Joe's house. And there was, we were all there. It was 8-on-8. There were 16 of us there, and he had all these rooms set up for us, and his mom actually fed all of us and everything. She was real cool about it. And we're taking a break because we were just doing massive Slayers and King of the Hills and stuff and Capture the Flag. So we're taking a break. We're upstairs. We're all chowing down. We're all talking, BSing and talking to his mom and talking to everybody. And he had this little porcelain doll that sat on a chair, and it was of an African American child. And this thing was the creepiest thing ever. And somebody, before we went upstairs, decided to set it at the bottom of the stairs where for where we were going. So we're all, chatting, eating, ready to go back and play. And a bunch of us round the corner and we're like, holy crap, how did that thing, we're freaking out. We're 14, 15, 16 years old. And there's this thing sitting at the bottom of it. I was scared. I crapped myself, not going to lie.
I think you just did again.
I pooped. But there's a lot of fond memories with that game. Even today with Halo 4 being out, I probably with 2, 3, Reach, and 4 combined, I probably have not played it as much as I played 1.
I believe it.
I would not put that game down. Hours and hours and hours and hours spent on that game.
It's a sweet ass game.
I'm sure you agree with me on that for Xbox.
Oh yeah. And Fable 1.
Fable 1.
Fable Lost Chapters.
I was going to say Lost Chapters, definitely. That was before DLC.
You had to buy a whole new game.
Yeah.
Which I didn't care. I liked beating the whole thing.
Yeah. Redoing the whole thing. It's definitely fun. Now, of course, we have our 360s, we have our Wii's, and the Wii U just came out, actually, and we have our PlayStation 3s, and the console battle still lives on, but it's getting to that point where a lot of genres are crossing over. I mean, Devil May Cry, all of them have it, and even now with Metal Gear, now Xbox has Metal Gear. It's not PlayStation exclusive anymore, and it's getting to that point where there's not really much that's going to be. I mean, the exclusives off the top of my head that I can think of for like PlayStation, God of War.
Xbox got Halo.
Yeah, Xbox has Halo and Gears of War.
Nintendo's got Mario and Link.
Yep.
Zelda, whatever you want to call it.
So
Zelda is not a boy.
Yeah, Zelda is the princess. For anybody that doesn't know, that's listening and watching,
happens. I still hear it.
If you don't know, Zelda is the princess. I just,
Chat say that. I'm good now.
Well, yeah. I mean, she'll play Sheik, who is a boy, but she is the chick. For some reason, they titled them Zelda, and you're rescuing her. I guess it'd be like a Mario game being called Peach.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but Zelda, I guess, plays more in the games than Peach ever did, because Peach was like, I'm in a castle, come rescue me. And
Zelda's like a key piece.
Yeah, and Zelda, like I said, she would be Sheik, and she would help out and do different things. So it's not like she was by any means like, I'm a helpless princess. So
she'd act like, and then she'd be like, "Oh, ninja mode." You remember playing on Smash Brothers, and you could like go Sheik mode and be all fast as shit, and then be Zelda and go. Hee hee. It was like, why would you want to be Zelda? Be a ninja.
Because I think Zelda had the shield, didn't she, where she could deflect shit back?
I don't know. I just like to be a ninja and be like ninja.
Yeah, I never used her really. I used Mewtwo mostly.
I know. I'm just saying. Just saying.
So that I think is about it.
Oh yeah. I like WoW.
That's PC.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, PC. You know, growing up, we had a lot of games growing up on PC. Doom, eventually I played, and then Doom 3. Eventually, when that came out, I don't know what you were pointing at. No, not gonna talk about it. It's right there, but I'm not gonna talk. No, I'm just kidding. Diablo 1, yeah, that was another one that kind of grew up, and they ported it to PlayStation. I remember that. I remember playing with buddies. It was kind of like with StarCraft also. You played StarCraft, and then they ported that to Nintendo 64, and I was like, this is garbage. But on the PC, it was amazing, but on the N64, it was complete crap.
Age of Empires, Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
Played those games.
A lot of those. But mine still, through this, that lived throughout it, I'd have to say are Blizzard games. World of Warcraft, like you said, Diablo, StarCraft. I mean, there's not much else I play. I mean, my PC, if you look at it, it's got Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, World of Warcraft, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, and I would have StarCraft 1 if it still worked on there. It doesn't. The graphics don't work. And Diablo 2 would be on it if I cared, but I'd have Diablo 3. So I don't really play too much anymore. I mean, I have 2 on my laptop, so that way if I'm someplace where I don't have internet, I can play 2, because with 3 you have to be on there. But
and Farmville. I'm just kidding. I don't play Farmville.
I think if it wasn't a Blizzard game, the only thing I would probably play is those PopCap games, you know, like Plants vs. Zombies and stuff like that. But
I didn't get into Blizzard games till I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Which one did you start with?
Cataclysm.
So you started with WoW.
Started with WoW.
Wow. I made it funny. I didn't even plan on doing that. I made it.
That just happened.
That did just happen. No, don't. No, I'm not. I'm ashamed of that. See, like I started when I started with Diablo, and then StarCraft 2, and then Diablo 2, or not StarCraft 2, StarCraft 1. I don't know. Diablo 2, StarCraft 1.
It's like a big thought bubble up here of him trying to figure out what he's talking about.
I'm gonna punch you.
It's like a big jar below.
There's a lot of game. There are a lot of games up here, man. There's a lot of games, and Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, and then Warcraft 2. There's so many memories. There's so many. Do you realize how many games are up here? There's a lot of games up here, man.
You tell me about them all the time.
A lot of games. I mean, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
He's the game master.
I wouldn't say master, but I got
He's
knowledge.
the game guy.
I have knowledge.
Give a guy props and he tells you you're wrong.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to be humble.
You're this guy.
You,
Try to be humble, guys. Guys, I try to be humble. I'm sorry, guys.
Matt,
Yeah.
how about we wrap this up and eat some pie?
Eat your mom's pie. Alright, yeah, let's wrap this thing up.
All right. We got wings to eat. This thing's been going on long enough.
Gotta watch the Bears lose.
Yeah, the Bears are losing tonight. Yeah!
Pack's gonna get number 1 back. What?
All right, let's wrap this up, eat some pie, and go get some wings. You guys have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your family. Be safe. Remember, this episode wasn't even supposed to be out, so this is your Thanksgiving episode. There's no particular order you have to watch this one in. So there you go. I'm the Big Man Gamer. This is Matt G, of course.
Have fun eating some pie. Wear stretchy pants. I mean, Thanksgiving. Woo!
I'll catch you guys for Halo 4.
It was a nightmare.